Planting season finally here at the proving grounds. We've had a bunch of rain, little break, just getting dry enough before the next batch of rain is scheduled. But I want to take time today. I've been doing this a long time, folks. We've been incorporated 34 years. I've went through a lot of stages. Started heavy on the chemical end, right? Roundup was just getting going, all the commercial fertilizers, all that. And as I've learned more about growing crops, growing really good deer, improving the soil's health, and all the things that go together, I want to talk today about the difference between biology and chemistry. Specifically, I want to talk about biology and chemistry when it comes to growing crops. Crops that we're going to consume, crops to feed deer that we're going to consume. Now, unequivocally, we can diss like crazy. We can add hundreds or even thousands of dollars at times into the field with synthetic fertilizer. A lot of people don't realize this, but when you buy a bag of 10-10-10 or something, a lot of that is a petroleum-based product. They're not mining some of these rocks out of the ground and putting it in there. That's part of it, but not all of it. Versus letting the natural biology or adding biology, replenishing biology, and letting that do the work. So let's just start with some basics. Above every acre, the acre where I am, the acre where you are right now, there's over 30 tons of nitrogen in the atmosphere. We breathe it in and breathe it right back out. If we could break it down, it would be in a form that would be lethal to humans. 30 tons of nitrogen per acre is more than anyone is ever going to need growing crops in their lifetime. And we see that by the forest to the side or whatever, where no one is adding these nutrients. Same is true for heavy yield crops like corn or cereal rye or something like that. The magic is having the right bacteria, biology in the soil that can help those plants to convert atmospheric nitrogen to a usable form for the plant. Remember, there's 30 plus tons per acre, more than an ample supply. But you need to convert it into a form that's usable by plants. And there are bacteria that do that job. That's what they do. And they have an economy with plants, and they trade that nitrogen for something that the bacteria needs. Now, fancier people use the word microbes. That's kind of beneficial bacteria, and bacteria is bad, like we get sick from. I'm going to say bacteria so everyone knows what we're talking about. But it's interchangeable with microbes. So nitrogen, long as you're taking care of your soil and you're not disking, you're not letting it go right back up in the atmosphere, it's taken care of. The Creator took care of that. Phosphorus, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, those are called the macronutrients. Plants need a lot of those. They need a smaller amount of trace elements like boron, zinc, whatever. But the macros are what people are trying to put when they're fertilizing most commonly. But scientists have figured out that under most acres, sandy soil, clay soil, loamy soil, there's often 10,000 pounds or more of phosphorus available, but again, it's in a form that plants can't use. When you look in detail at your soil report, no matter what lab you get it from, it often says melic 1, melic 2, melic 3. Those are all tests based on different acids they're pouring on the soil to leach out these elements or nutrients. We're not having acid out here at that level, and literally the Creator put enough phosphorus, that's the elementary basis of soil, in the soil, but it's not in a form available to plants or it would erode and go way too quick. And once again, bacteria, beneficial bacteria, microbes come to play. They can break that rock phosphorus down, if you will, and make it in a form that's available to plants. But they have to get something back from the plant. They literally go in and out of plants. That's a big fancy term. Dr. White, I believe, was the first person that really acknowledged this. They go in and out of the plants literally, and they trade what they're bringing, phosphorus we're talking about now, for carbon. These plants are photosynthesizing. We all know that the basic recipe for photosynthesis, the product, is C6H12O6. 6 carbons right off the top, right? So when that sun's shining, plants are green and growing, they are making carbon, more than they need. And some of that is leaking out a root system. It's called exudates, and that's what's feeding the bacteria. And in that economy, getting that, the plant sends signals through pheromones, external hormones, saying, I need phosphorus, I need zinc, I need whatever. and I'll trade you carbon for that. This is a very simplified version of what's going on when we use biology versus chemistry, poured out of a bag, put on the soil. So all these elements, I could go on down the list, are almost always present in the soil unless it's an extremely eroded site. But we don't have the microbes because of the previous erosion, disking, putting very harsh substances on the ground like nitrogen, anhydrous, all these things. Those kill beneficial microbes. So we could use chemistry and keep doing that. And we know we can grow crops. How healthy are those crops? Well, that's another subject. But for today, I don't want to pay for those things, and I want my deer eating the healthiest quality forage they can. So several years ago, almost a decade now, I stopped using any commercial, or a lot of people call it synthetic because it's made out of other elements. That's not just raw phosphorus ground up. I quit putting that on my land and using a rotation that's really simple. Diverse blend of plants, sunshine, which is free, all the nitrogen in the atmosphere is free, and critters in the ground. A big critter we can see easily is earthworms. And they do a great job of tilling the soil. Man has never made a soil aerator or disc that is as good as earthworms, especially if you have a healthy population of earthworms. Some of those species go up and down, some go side to side, some go, at a slantwise angle, and they're making just the right hole for water to infiltrate the soil, air to infiltrate the soil, and keep it porous so those roots can expand and grow. They're the perfect tillage system, and they're free labor. All you have to do is provide them food, and they like decaying vegetation. So when you disc, you destroy all that. Not only does the disking action kill earthworms by the gads, it's breaking up all their pores and where they lay their young and everything. We never till. We're no-tilling, and we're planting right through our past crop. If it's above 30 degrees or so, cereal rye is photosynthesizing. Summer crops are obviously photosynthesizing. So every day, I'm putting carbon in the soil. I'm not disturbing the soil so those earthworms can multiply rapidly. I let this crop, I terminate it with a crimper. I lay it down, which provides mulch to keep water from evaporating out back into the atmosphere. There's no need to irrigate if you do this right. I know everyone says, oh, I drive down the interstate and I see all these big fertilizer trucks and herbicide sprayers and pivot irrigation. But I tell you, and you can find this online, the most successful farmers right now in the United States and even in the world have abandoned those systems or weaning off of them and going back to this natural system, using biologicals and working with the land versus fighting against it. You're thinking, well, Grant, man, you do this all the time. It's working here, man. We live in Stone County. Does that mean rocky to you? Stone County, Missouri, in the Ozark Mountains. This is very poor soil. And you see, I'm 6 foot tall. Look at this. This field is new enough. It's never had litter. It's never had synthetic fertilizer. This was dozed off, just like all the trees around here. So we started basically with rock, literally rock. Man, that's tough on equipment. And then we just kept planting, crimping, and building soil. We built a couple inches in this field. You can pull up a plant and see where the rock layer is. We're building organic matter, very rich organic matter. Here's a little tip for you. Really healthy soil should be dark and look like rich, moist chocolate cake. A lot of pores in there. Those pores are needed for all the critters to move around, to hold the right amount of air, and like a big sponge, hold water for the plants, and it's not compacted. Really compacted soil, it's really hard for those root fibers to really expand through there. You say, well, again, Grant, only works at your place. Well, you remember my buddy George down in Texas, really deep sandy soils? Or Chris Berry in South Carolina, hard red clay soils. Just like a brick when it's dry, man, and slick as grease when it's wet. You know those hard southern clay Piedmont soils. And they're growing great crops. Now, if you don't keep your deer herd in check, when you get your forage really tasty and they eat it all to the ground, what we call lip high, you're not really benefiting the soil. So you're always combining deer management with crop management. You may start with a really poor place like we did here at the Proving Grounds. And I wish I'd have known all this earlier. You may remember back in the day, I worked with my good friend Galen Croft out of Berryville, Arkansas, and added compost. Tons and tons to a couple of food plots on proven grounds at the portion we sold. And it was really good, but that can be really expensive. Just a trucking of anything that heavy and spreading it, that causes soil compaction. And then I met Chris Masters, and Chris Masters at Soil Pro. I can't say enough, and I was a huge doubter. Treated him bad, actually, to start with. Now, you won't see me making food plots without it. Chris's products are going to be less expensive than commercial fertilizer if you're putting on a heavy rate. We're not having any soil compaction like a heavy fertilizer buggy or fertilizer truck, because we're working at Dakota at Monarch Drone Solutions. So they're flying over it. They're not even touching the soil. We drill now, we crimp, and then we drill in late summer. And besides dragging a deer out of here, or deer walking on here, that's the only pressure on our soil. And that allows it to be fluffy and perfect and hold all that moisture and be very productive. When you're driving heavy equipment, you know, you disc twice, and then you flatten that out, and then you plant, and then you cultipack. You wonder why your plants aren't growing that great? Because you're squishing all the air pockets out of that soil. You're killing all the beneficial life in the soil, and you're adding synthetics on there that are harmful to whatever beneficial life survived at. It's a totally chemical synthetic system versus a system of just following how the Great Prairies were formed, how the Creator made it work. Soil Pro is taking natural microbes. These aren't something, you know, they're making in a lab or something, but they're just multiplying them. Maybe your land has been disked for so long, they just don't exist there anymore. And you can apply that and restart the system. We use our steel backpack sprayers in our little high-yield food plots. We have the drones come out there to the big one. It is fast, no soil compaction, and we are absolutely impressed with the results. Once I stopped doubting Chris at Soil Pro, I really got involved with him. We did some specific soil tests. These aren't the normal tests we send off the lab and they drip your soil with acid and see what leaches out. That's not what plants do, folks. That's not a real reading of that. And I used and promoted standard soil tests for years, but we all know better. A lot of the more advanced labs are now measuring soil life because they know those nutrients in the soil is there enough life to make them available to plants. Chris took some of those really sophisticated tests off our place and can make a custom blend exactly for what we needed or what you need. I'm telling you, the results are very impressive. You may remember when we shared this, we had a control area when I was still in the doubting phase. We had Dakota treat some and not treat some. Took forage samples from both treated and untreated, and the results were amazing. There was no doubt that it was working. No doubt which one was more nutritious for deer. And when you're like me, in steep Ozark mountain land, you got limited flat acres you can put a food plot on. You need every acre being as productive as possible. I want to feed as many deer and have as healthy a deer as I can. And as part of this, going to a natural system, you know, in a Great Prairie or somewhere, even a weed patch somewhere, it's not a monoculture, it's several different species growing. There's several reasons why. Some of the simple stuff, like the seal rye is real tall, clover's shorter, plants in between, they're capturing the sunshine so not much is hitting the ground. Remember, photosynthesis is literally the key to all life. And we want as much photosynthesis per acre, as much carbon building per acre as we can get. Second, when you got different leaf shapes and different heights, big leaves, little stems, you're blocking that sun out so it's not going to the ground and causing weeds to grow. If there's not sun getting down there, weeds are not going to grow. And third, blends allow me to create that magic bean. We all want that magic bean. You know, it's drought resistant, but survives in a wetter period. It's real cold hardy, but can take a really hot day in July. All those things. Well, no one plant can do that, folks. But by adding 6 or 8 different families of plants together, not just species, you know, alfalfa and clover, they're both legumes. I'm talking families like brassicas, grasses, broadleafs, legumes, all these families together, that's how you get a bulletproof food plot that survives various conditions, really limits weed growth, and provides more tons per acre. A good blend will provide more tons than a monoculture of a forage crop.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, Also buy Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, PH Outdoors, Black Widow Bows, Moultrie Mobile, Steel, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, Fourth Arrow, Soil Pro Outdoors, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
I like walking through and then just stopping at random. This doesn't look any different anywhere around it. You got to get it out of your way so you don't poke yourself in the eye. Just get a big bunch. Really healthy soil looks like this. It looks like moist chocolate cake. You can see all the pore space in there. And the roots are brown. The dirt is just sticking to there. It doesn't even shake off that well. I'm shaking it, and the roots are still holding it on. That's because when the microbes are going in and out of plant, they actually excrete a substance that's like glue that really bonds to the root. And I'm pulling the dirt off now. It takes a little bit to pull it off. And what that does, I don't know if this is going to show up, each of those feeder roots now have this big little bitty earthworm right here, itty bitty earthworm, more around them. It makes a network, so the root's not moving. So more water, more geography to get more water and more nutrients. And that's the advantage of having beneficial fungus in the soil that really expands that network many, many-fold bigger. And microbes that are moving, they're coming and going, and they're starved for carbon, the photosynthesis of this part of the plant, but they can't get it. So they go in and out of roots down here, and that's that economy I'm talking about. They're saying, hey, you need some phosphorus? Man, I'll get you all the phosphorus you want. I just got to have some carbon. The plant's making more carbon than it needs, and that's why this economy works so well. And we interrupt that economy by putting harmful substances like synthetic fertilizer and all the herbicides and everything on the ground, and you may have to wean off. If you've been in a system where, you're putting 500 pounds of triple 10 per acre or something like that, and you go to nothing, that's a weaning process, folks. You may want to cut down to, 50% of that, and then the next year 25%, and wean yourself off. And you can't get this through the camera, but good soils should smell sweet. If it smells really bitter, your soil's not in very good shape. Like really fresh potting soil, really sweet. Let's pull some more up here so what we can find. One little earthworm in that one. And this soil, folks, this is the bone back of a rocky ridge. I'm pulling rocks up with it. This is a profile of how much dirt we built, because literally this was just rock. When they dozed all the trees off, that blade on dozer, it's just pushing any topsoil with it. There wasn't much topsoil in the Ozarks. We're building that, and I'm going to get this out in full sunshine. Hopefully the camera light's true. That's as black as the best Iowa dirt. Now, it's not as deep, right? They may have 6 or 8 profile. We're inches, but look how thick all the roots are in there. It's just, I don't know if it's focusing, but just one root after another. And I'm going to shake it, pretty good. And look how much dirt is staying. That's a test you can do at your place. Pull something up. I'm hitting it hard. Will it hold soil? Then you've got some pretty healthy soil going on. Wormholes. And when I pull, I'm going to see if the mic will pick this up. You hear those roots just, when you get to looking, there's just untold number of little bitty fine roots. And that's how it's able to feed so well. This is cool. Wasn't by design, but you can always make, lemonade out of lemons. When we were planting last fall, we missed a stretch. Figured that out, come back in broadcast. And for whatever that day, whatever reasons, ups blend, the wheat, this is wheat, did much better than the cereal rye. You can tell it's this tall versus this tall. But there's a lot more weeds in here because without that tall cereal rye, it's not blocking enough sun. Sun's getting to the ground. And in this one pass of a drill, there's a lot more weeds. That's if you go here, just focus down. They're winter annuals. They're not bad weeds. They're winter annuals. And then just take a step in here. Now, this plot has really heavy browse pressure. The brassicas and the clovers have pretty much been ate out. I've got to get more production or have fewer deer. But it's amazing, in a 2-foot difference, almost no weeds. Here's a bad weed, and everyone knows this weed probably, if I can get it out of the ground here. Mare's tail. Farmers fight this almost nationwide. You get in here, almost none, because cereal rye produces a chemical that just kills little bitty mare's tail seed. And if you have a really big problem with water hemp or mare's tail, one of the best things you can do is plant a really heavy batch of cereal rye with your fall blend. Don't disc. We used to have mare's tail really, really bad. It's almost non-existent in our plots now because we plant a really heavy portion of cereal rye with the rest of our blend. Oh yeah, look at this, folks. Worm, 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 some kind of little beetle. There's probably more in here. And you can just see the heavy matting of the roots. And again, that's the soil profile. At this place, we've built 3 or 4 inches right here. And rocks, we're right at the rock layer. I can just pull the rocks out here. We have grown down to the rock layer. And again, I used to really dislike rocks, but now that I'm using Soil Pro and I understand the biology so much better, those microbes are eating these rascals up. Now, they're not going to eat up a slab of granite overnight, folks, but at a microscopic level, they're converting this to usable elements, including phosphorus, for the plants. And when you have that perfect slow-release fertilizer system, better than drip irrigation, it doesn't take many pounds of nutrients to produce really good, healthy crops. It doesn't, but the secret is the microbes are perfect timing. Perfect timing, but man, I wish we could communicate, smell, or camera. I'm going to break this apart. And you got to put some oomph behind it because all those roots are just holding it together. I want you to just look at that, like moist, dark chocolate cake. All the pore space in there. That soil's as good as it gets, folks. And this is in the Ozark Mountains just by following the simple steps I've shared. We call it the release process, releasing creation's potential. We call it the release process, and it is working beautifully for us. You've seen the bucks we've harvested. This is in a county where 130 is a giant buck, and you've seen the bucks we've harvested. There's nothing different. We didn't import any deer. We just have better habitat. We're planting today, and this is, when the rye is making these things, people think that's a seed. That's not the seed. Those are actually rye flowers that have been pollinated. You can tell they've done their deal because they're falling off now real easy. And when I take an individual rye seed out, this is called, if you want to be scientific, the anthesis stage. And when I take an individual rye seed and pull it open, that's just the start of a seed. It's nowhere big and full like a rye you plant. Got moisture in it, so we're gonna plant now, and in a week or so we're crimp. Because if we crimp this right now, these seeds are not full at all. A lot of it would stand back up. But if we let that fill on out, we get the plants in here, get a head start of growing. They're protected from really heavy rains because we got this growing. It's a little bit protected from deer browse because deer don't like sticking their head down in 5 feet of vegetation to eat something, right? The saber-tooth tiger can get up behind them pretty easy. So it's like a greenhouse, gets our plants off to a good start. We let them get 2 or 3 inches tall, run the crimper over it, and that'll be perfect. You can hear that drill hitting some rocks, folks. This is tough ground. And if it works here, it'll work anywhere. That's why we started calling it the proving grounds. But Tim's drilling through here. The tractor weighs enough that it's mashing that rye down now. Some of that will probably stand back up. In the middle here, where just the drill's going over it, it's already starting to stand back up. But rocky soil on the edge of this field. I hear people, oh, I can't plant that rocks. We run over rocks almost every square foot, folks. I mean, that's just part of being in the Ozarks. And you can see all this duff on the ground from the past crops. And we're next to timberline, see a few oak leaves in there. And I'm planting a blend that has some really small seeds, so I want them. We got rain coming, so there's a buckwheat seed right there on top. And I imagine some of the other seeds, if I can get this seed trench opened up, it's closing perfectly. Yep, there's a milo seed right there. We're planting green cover super summer, and we know we got a lot of browse pressure here, so we're planting that at 60 pounds per acre. The pH drill's already calibrated. We're putting it in at 60 pounds per acre. With rain, heavy rain, 80% chance of rain in the forecast, I'm planting shallow, knowing I'm gonna get a really good germination rate. A lot of guys have been used to discing. One of the secrets to switching to no-till drill as far as maintenance is drive those babies straight. They're not built to take tight corners. Disc, those circles, have tremendous strength going forward, right? There's 8-10 inches still there. But sideways, it's an 1/8 inch or less. It's made narrower than a disc blade because you're just cutting a little slit for the seed to drop in. And sideways, if you're putting turning pressure on it, you can shear it off. So Tim drives up there, picks the drill up, turns around, gets positioned, lightly lets it back down and takes off. We're never turning sharp corners with that down. That was on my heart to share today, that there's absolutely a better and less expensive way than the traditional chemical applications. Healthier for deer, healthier for us. I don't think anyone gets up in the morning and says, man, I can't wait for that glyphosate to blow over me. Now, I'm not anti-herbicide, but I think we should all be good stewards of the resource and use the minimal amount necessary to get the job done. If you just got on a property and it's got a really, really bad weed population out there, you're probably in the herbicide game for a little bit. If you can get a really good crop off, especially a fall crop, going into the spring that's really thick and a lot of tons, you can probably broadcast or drill through there, crimp it down, and that would probably be at least 80% of your weed control. Good blends are key, but really the whole key to this process working is putting all these natural elements together at the right time to have really productive crops and improving the soil's health. I can't figure out what's not to like about the release process or using natural systems to improve our food plots. And I can't really understand why someone would not want to follow the creator's will, the person that created the entire universe, everything, knows all, everything, and not apply that will to your life. So I'm going to challenge each of you, believers and non-believers alike, this week, take some quiet time, 5-10 minutes in the morning. Don't be distracted. Put your phone away. Don't be distracted. Just be really quiet and seek the Creator. If you're really seeking, He's coming to you, and apply His will to your life daily. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.